Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today is so much fun because we have a repeat guest on, but good golly, he has not been on the program since 2013. So lots of things have happened in the world, in his life, in all of these various things. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with our guest again. So please join me in welcoming Eric Holtzclaw to our program. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me. So good to reconnect.
It is so much fun. And it was funny. We were chatting before we started recording that, we're connected on social media. So we see what's going on in each other's lives and with each other's businesses. But we don't always connect.
Right.
And so it's interesting because we're going to be talking about marketing and how to reach people, the lurkers of the world, and all those various things. And so this really is going to be very interesting today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, let me tell people just a little bit about you, and then we'll just jump into this. So Eric Holtzclaw is the Dojo Master for Liger Partners, a full-service marketing firm based right here in Atlanta, Georgia. When his team of Ligers isn't feasting on tater tots and quesadillas, they are working with companies across a wide spectrum of industries to create killer brands, solid strategy, and flawless execution. So again, Eric, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's kind of go back a bit. As I mentioned, you were on the program in 2013, and at that point you had written a book, great book. We had a fun time talking about it. But what's kind of happened between now and then, and where are you now?
I tell people that I'm a recovering technologist. So, I ran development shops back in the day and then owned a research company for a period of time, which the book is primarily about how to reach customers and having the right messaging. And as marketing has become more and more complex and more based on technology, that has been a good fit for me. So I set up a agency several years ago. We are a full service marketing firm, and we work with companies that don't have a marketing department. So they may have one marketing person that just left. They just fired their marketing person or looking for a marketing person. And the problem nowadays is that marketing is so many different disciplines.
Right.
So there's 9 or 10 different things that someone needs to be able to do marketing well. And you're not going to find 9 or 10 different skill sets within one person.
Right.
And so I set up the company was laddering for a long time. And then at the end of the year, last year, we merged with another company. And so once we did that, we decided that we needed to rebrand the company. So we rebranded it as Liger. And the reason we rebranded it as Liger is you can't find a unicorn marketer. So there's no such thing as a unicorn marketer. There's no such thing as unicorns. I hope that no one listening, I've disappointed them, but there's no thing. But there is such a thing as a liger. So a liger is a combination of a lion and a tiger. And it is the fact that we do both strategy and execution.
Right.
So when you're working with marketing firms, you typically will find one that does strategy really well. And you can be clued into that because they'll say things like, oh, you need to rebrand, you need to build a website, like that kind of stuff. They like
got lots of good keywords.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily can't build it for you. So they can do the creative and all that kind of stuff. And then you have people who do execution really well. And you're clued into someone who does execution well because they are always recommending, oh, you're not on social media and you should be on social media. So Liger is a combination of strategy and execution. So we look at the company and understand the company deeply, like where you headed, what are you trying to do? And then we put the right strategy and execuand behind that to help you reach your goals.
Right.
So that's kind of the world I'm in. And it's a good combination of all of the things in my background. And I just have this like killer team.
I know. I was having so much fun reading their bios. It's like, oh, I want to meet these people. I want to have tater tots with you guys.
and it is all based on the movie that came out years ago, Napoleon Dynamite. So Napoleon says that Liger is basically the fiercest animal ever and his favorite animal. And so we use that as our mascot.
Right. And I think what's so important and critical is the fact that, as you said, marketing is so complicated. It's way back when I got my degree, it was, there were a couple things you did. You were told someone has to see your message 7 times before they'll make a decision. And, all these various things. And of course, that was long before the internet had even been invented, let alone social media. All sorts of things like that. And so it's very complicated. And for many people, what happens is they just throw up their hands, or they say, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Or they make an excuse that they don't need marketing.
Right.
You don't need marketing. That's not how we get clients. And I'm like, well, you're doing marketing.
Right.
You're doing some kind of marketing.
Yeah. And they either don't understand it, or they're not doing enough. Or, there are times where they're saying, well, I don't need to because I have enough clients, right? That's a really good problem to have.
That's a good problem to have.
But, it is something that can get very complicated, and so talk to us about how, especially in, the last 5-10 years, how has marketing really changed?
So it's interesting that you use the stat, the 7, because I used to be the stat. So the stat is now 21.
Cool.
So it's 3 times what it used to be from a perspective of like understanding who you are and where you fit.
Right.
So prior to 2008, marketing was really about driving people to some kind of event, a store, a website, whatever. And then at that point, the sales engine would pick up and take care of everything. After 2008, which we blame a lot on kind of what happened in the economy, what's going on today.
Right.
But in 2008, around that time frame, we got smartphones. We got ubiquitous internet, so you have internet everywhere, and we got social media. And those 3 things dramatically changed the buyer journey.
Right.
And dramatically made the heavy lifting fall on the shoulders of marketing over sales. So marketing now establishes the relationship, and sales is about the transaction. Before 2008, it was the reverse.
Right.
Marketing did they were the transaction. They're the person who got you in the door. And then the salesperson would pick you up and you'd say, I have 3 kids. And they're like, oh, I have 3 kids. Like they like, oh, I've done that. Blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, you walk in with your phone and you say, I want this thing. I found it online. I've read the reviews.
Right. I know exactly what I want.
Here it is. And so marketing does all of that work. We really don't necessarily want to talk to a salesperson. In fact, 70% of the decision is made before the person picks up the phone, calls you, goes into the store, does any of those things. And I get pushback from B2B clients because they'll say, oh, that's a B2C stat. That is a B2B stat.
Right. Right.
And so the only thing your salesperson does is either close the deal or screw it up.
Right. Yeah. Go away. Leave me alone.
So if you're not doing marketing and your competitor is even doing the least amount of marketing, you're already far behind.
Right.
You're already far behind. You're letting them tell your story for you.
Right. And it's funny because a lot of what we say now in marketing is that we're building awareness.
Right.
And, and that's true. It's maybe it's because we have to be seen, 21 times and there's so much clutter that's out there. I've got 2 big monitors here in front of me and my smartphone, and now I have the TV off, because that's a little too distracting. But, but for the program, of course, I turn everything else off. But if I'm just sitting here working, I've got Facebook, I've got LinkedIn, I do have the TV probably going, all these various things. And so just catching somebody's attention for that very first time, let alone 21 times, is just, it's in many cases impossible.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to be, as Seth Godin, you got to be a purple cow. So you can't be a brown cow because they're boring.
Right. You got to stand out somehow.
Stand out sometime. And we're building awareness, but we're really establishing a relationship.
Right.
You and I have not talked to each other like this since 2013.
Right.
But we both know what's been going on in each other's lives. We've both been marketing what we're doing, where we are and who we are and all that type of thing. So we kept up with each other. So we're not picking up and going like, well, tell me what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years. And as a company, that client may not need you for a long period of time.
Right.
You need to stay in front of them because when they do remember you, then they're going to reach out. I
Mhm.
had someone call me today asking for a referral to a speaking coach.
Mm.
And I know a lot of speaking coaches and I
Mhm.
get their stuff, but I'm sure I know more speaking coaches that I haven't heard from, right?
Right.
I have a couple that stay in front of me on a
Mhm.
regular basis, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got two
Mhm.
guys. That'll be
Mhm.
great. I'll make the referral, blah, 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 just because I'm getting newsletters from them. I've seen them online.
Right.
But I'm certain I'm connected because I
Mhm.
went to Toastmasters and all those kind of things with hundreds of people who do
Mhm.
speaking coaching, right?
Mhm.
But I don't remember the ones that are staying in front of me.
Right. And of course, that's the key is we have to stay in front of people. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, well, I do one social media post a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And,
So
and
many posts last 7 seconds.
oh yeah, and I didn't say what a waste of time, but I'm sure the eyebrow went up. I mean, it's oh, did my face say that out loud? And part of it was they didn't see that it was, well, they thought it was a waste of time.
Right. There's
And
nothing.
yeah, and they didn't see any results from it. Well, of course, the reason they didn't see any results was nobody saw it.
Right.
The old tree fell in the woods and nobody heard it. And so it is that repetition, which is kind of annoying, especially as that marketing person. But it's it's the old yellow pages type of thing. We used to get the yellow pages out and look at the yellow pages, and they were in front of us. It's the same thing with whatever else it is. With our marketing, we have to stay in front of people.
And you just have to do it right. And you do
Right.
it right. You do it right. Like it's about educating. It's about sharing. It's about keeping people informed. It's not about look at me, or here's my last sale, or here's a discount. Anytime you head down that path, you've already lost,
Right.
right? Like it's a sales thing. You got to
Mhm.
think about marketing. Like marketing's about giving stuff away for free and
Mhm.
staying in front so that when they do have that need, they're like, oh, I know such and such does that, and I should give them a call.
Right.
And you're like, okay, cool, that's
Mhm.
great.
Well, and it is funny because of social media that, a lot of times we might have never even worked with that person, but we've seen their posts and maybe their posts have had nothing to do with business. But again, it's like, oh yeah, I remember I just saw something from Eric and so then, yeah, it's that whole top of mind thing.
Well, it's a way of establishing credibility. So like
Mhm.
last week, I gave a presentation at what used to be the IBM Tower here in Atlanta. And I started my career at the IBM Tower 25 years ago.
Mm.
And so I posted a picture of that
Mhm.
building, said, it was kind of nostalgic to go back and give a presentation in the building where my career started 25 years ago. In that post, I've told someone that I'm a veteran because
Mhm.
I've been around for 25 years. I've seen some things, right?
Right.
They know I worked for IBM, so I must have some kind of a technology slant.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
so you're doing all that without saying those things.
Right.
You don't have to say I'm an expert and I'm really
Mhm.
great at technology.
Mhm.
Like think of different ways of kind of sharing your life, and people can see through that to understand kind of how you could help them out, what
Mhm.
you could do.
Right. Well, and when we do that bragging, in many cases, it does turn people off.
Yeah.
There's certainly ways to do it where, it's a very positive. And there are times, let's be honest, you win a big award, you want to brag that you won a big award. I mean, some things like that. But, I'm not going to tell people, well, yeah, I have 3 college degrees.
Right.
If they want to see that, it's on my LinkedIn profile, and of course, most people will go 3. What, you couldn't get it right the first 2 times? Um, and all these various things. It's about being, and I love this. I was reading this on your website that you become family
Yes.
with, and that's how you treat the people you work with. And I think that's very much a part of it is we want to work with people who we consider our friends and our family, even if we've never met them. If in the real world, we might be thousands of miles apart, all these various things. We want to work with people that we know, like, and trust.
One interesting thing about the Ligers is we're a very virtual company.
Mm-hmm.
So there are Ligers I have never met.
Right.
There are people who work on the back end of our
Mm-hmm.
Slack channels and Basecamp and others that are just awesome writers, who
Mm-hmm.
are awesome graphics people, awesome, lead form builders, things like that. Never met them, but
Right.
they're considered like they're part of the family. And I
Mm-hmm.
love our brand because like we are Ligers. Like everyone's
Mm-hmm.
like, you become a Liger, right?
Yeah.
So
With a Liger. Mm-hmm.
own the mascot. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And you were talking a minute ago about self-serving. It's the rules about 4 non-self-serving, so like educational, informative pieces to every one. Like do one thing that's either a promotion or something, but you've got to keep that balance in place. And people get so, if you're looking at 21 times I need to see something or become aware of it, that has to happen over time. That's not going to happen in one day.
Right.
Like that's just not, lightning doesn't strike that way. It's got to be over time. You got to keep doing it. And then you start to see the sort of flywheel work the way that it should.
Right. Well, and we're not saying that you're seeing, say, a product that you're selling 21 times. You're seeing 21 mentions, comments, something about the, and so you might only see, say you sell, a car. You might only see the ad for a car twice. Yeah, and the other 19 times,
it's your friend telling you about it, it's in a review, it's mentioned in a blog post, that kind of stuff. That's all the stuff. It's like, you're right, exactly. And that's the mistake, because I'll see this mistake is made a lot still, like on the Golf Channel and during football games and things like that, where you see that same commercial over and over again.
Oh yeah.
It becomes background noise. And maybe the reason you're like, I'm never buying that car. Because it's so annoying, right? So you've got to make sure it's tempered, like you're thinking about it very strategically.
Right. And if you do see it that repetitively, it's annoying, and especially on social media. It's funny. I've been, it's as we're filming this, it's toward the end of the year. So I've been been researching monthly planners and weekly planners. I'm one of these paper people. I still do my planner on paper, all this good stuff. And so all I had to do was search once, because now in my Facebook newsfeed, I'm just bombarded with ads for it.
That you just have to say it.
Oh, I know. I'm like,
for furniture the other day.
Who's listening?
She was like, I've not looked up one furniture thing in my entire feed since furniture now.
I know. I'm like, I love the meme that says, I told my husband people were listening and they said no, and Alexa laughed and Siri laughed. I'm like, yeah. But then when I start seeing those ads over and over, I only have to see them maybe once or twice, and I hide it. Or I pay zero attention to it. The worst thing is, of course, if I hide it, because then that's a negative for them. But, it's like, okay, I was just doing some basic research. I didn't want to be bombarded by it. I forget the phenomenon where when you're looking for something, you do notice it more. If you're thinking, hey, I want to buy a red car, you're going to see red cars everywhere you go.
Or you buy a car and you think it's unique.
Right. And then,
there's like 10 of them.
Yeah. And so it's just, when it's top of mind, you are going to see it more, but it doesn't take long before it's like, no, I don't want to see it. And then of course, the worst thing is when you keep seeing it when you're no longer interested.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a real tough one. Like from a marketing perspective, like working out, like once I've made the conversion and then also still seeing these things, that's something that as we move forward with marketing technology, that kind of an interesting thing to fix. And there's 7,000 marketing technology platforms available.
Wow.
Kind of selection right now. Is one of the things that's overwhelming for companies, because they end up either buying way too much of it, they buy the wrong thing. So kind of working through and sorting through the right type. We've just been renovating our house. And so, I tell people, they'll say, well, we want one marketing technology piece. And I'm like, well, that's like saying you need one tool to do the whole renovation of your house. That's just not true. But you don't need every tool at Home Depot, right? Like you need a few of them. So what are the few tools you need to use, and how do you put them together in combination to really meet your need and to kind of make sure you're servicing your client at the right conversion points?
Right. And then of course, the tricky thing is that stuff comes and goes. I mean, there were people who built, their entire marketing on, certain, especially social media platforms that, those didn't exist. And people still will say, well, everything I'm doing is on Facebook. Okay. Facebook probably has a longer life than most, but at some point it will be going away or changing and evolving and all of those things, it's direct mail is a great example. For years, that was how we reached people. We did direct mail. Well, then, we did so much direct mail, people paid no attention to it, and we moved to online. Right. And now direct mail gets paid attention to again, because you don't see it. you get you get the cool little thing in the mail and you're like, ooh, this is fun. And if it's personalized, holy schmoly, that's even better. But, so that's what's really hard for the poor little, small business owner, entrepreneur. They're like, how on earth do I even keep up?
They don't outsource it. I swear.
Mm-hmm.
All of my company, all of my group is specialists.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of our clients last week asked for somebody to do social media for us. And Whitney is my best. She keeps all my trends, does all the stuff. And she wasn't gonna be able to make the call. She was with a different client. She's like, well, couldn't you just step in? I'm like, no, I'm not an expert at that.
Right.
She keeps up with what's the hashtags today and which platform should we be on and how do you do this and that? And it changes so often.
Somebody asked me about TikTok and I went, nope.
Yeah. Right. You shouldn't try. Like just let an expert do it. You wouldn't do surgery on yourself. Most people shouldn't do your own taxes. Like you wouldn't put on your own roof. Like why are you trying to do this? Go run your business. Like somebody else is going to do that. You can buy incremental pieces of what their time, which is what my team is just incremental. So you need someone to write a blog once or twice a month. You need someone to put a social media calendar together for 30 minutes. Like those things. And go focus on your work, right? We'll set it up and make sure the strategy hits and does what you need it to do.
Right. And I love that that's how you operate. When I started in the marketing world, people bought and obviously it varies depending on what a client's needs are, but it was like, okay, well, we're going to give you $30,000 a month. Now, clearly they were big clients and you did all of the marketing. And there were times where you did a whole bunch in 1 month and then the next time, maybe not so much. But the fact that now you can go into organizations and work with companies like yours and just do, okay, Eric, I need 2 blog posts.
Right.
Great. I love that because that's what really works for the small business owner, for the entrepreneur who really has a pretty limited budget, to be able to contact someone like you and say, okay, where can I get the biggest bang for my buck? And because so many times they're thinking, okay, I have to do those 7,000 different things.
We're calling them down. We're like, and do this thing first, do this second.
Right.
We build a retainer model that allows them to do a similar thing if they can ask us for anything. And so we'll do an infographic for them, we'll build a website, whatever, but we level it out. So for the course of time they're working with us, they're paying us the same amount every month. But they can ask us for a brochure this month and we can build a trade show booth for them the next. And and they don't have to get into like, what is a boilerplate and what hashtag should we use and how do I create the content? And you were talking about planning, like we plan out a 12-month calendar. So we know the next 12 months exactly what we're going to be doing for that client. So it just makes it easy. Marketing is not a mystery. As much as I wish it were the Don Draper.
I know. And we had the crystal ball, right?
Yeah, it is operations. It is operations. And I, at heart, am a really strong operations guy.
Right.
I love to like turn something into an engine and just make that engine spin. And so if you look and think about marketing that way, then you're halfway through it. Everybody thinks it's the big idea and it's the whatever. And those are important to kind of feed the engine. But once you have that, you put that in that engine and you just like spin it over again. Over and over.
Yeah. And for the person who is focusing on whatever it is that their business is, that makes it great because they're not worrying about it. They know, okay, this is what's going to happen this month. And for many businesses, they're seasonal, they're cyclical, all these various things. And so to be able to take all of that into account is very important also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thinking about we start off with doing a strategy session with our clients. And we lay out the next 12 months. So we start off like, where is your business? Where do you want to be? Who's your ideal client? Making sure we're not doing any marketing today that would negate something they might do in the future. So you wouldn't want to market a product or service that you're going to change dramatically in the next 6 months, because we're trying to get to repetition. And then we're overlaying that with what are the industry events? What are you going to plan from a trade show or otherwise? One of the biggest things about it is we want to take advantage of existing press. So if there's something already going on, you don't have the budget that these big companies do. Let's figure out what's already being discussed. Let's latch onto it. So let's like leach into that and then just have conversations around it as well.
Right. And small business owners know these things, but they just can't do them, because they are, they're working on their own stuff. And so it does it, I love that companies can come to you and say, okay, Eric, I sell widgets. I really sell lots of widgets in June because my widgets target brides, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that you run into is, we're all told that we have to be good at sales, which I actually disagree with. So we could have a whole conversation about that. But, it's like, because it's like telling somebody, well, you have to be good at this other piece. Well, not everybody's great at sales. Like,
Right.
If you own a small business, yes, you need to be good at it. You're probably the best salesperson. The thing with marketing, and I had someone correct me on this, but marketing, what I see happen is it's the last thing people spend money on.
Right.
And they'll wait until the last minute. They're like, oh, we've got to sell widgets in June, and it's May 15th.
Right.
Help me sell some widgets in June. Like, could you have come back to me in January? Because then we'd be in a great place to sell widgets in June, right? So you wait too late. So they put marketing on last. When they see any signs of trouble, marketing the first thing they cut.
Yep.
First thing they cut. And so you're off your inbound revenue, like all that stuff. Now, someone corrected me and said that companies, the last thing they typically invest in is training. And the thing they cut is training. That's probably true. I can do it, right? But marketing's close. I'm amazed. We did a project for a customer recently. Huge trade show. And they came to us 6 weeks. Actually, it was 30 days before the trade show. And they should have come to us 6 months ago.
Right.
Like, there's so little we can get done at that point, in the middle of trade show season, so nothing's available, everything's more expensive. So it's really all about kind of planning it out, and then it's going to work. It's not wasted money.
Right. Yeah, because even if they're just wanting to order a widget that they're giving out at the, some, whatever the cool thing is, that is getting handed out at that trade show, you get better pricing, if you're not ordering it, the day before you need it, all of those various things. And the sad part is they probably knew that they were attending that. It was in the back of their mind. They'd marked it off on their calendars, all those various things. And, and now obviously there are a lot of times where you are kind of waiting to pull that trigger, especially when finances are tight, things like that. But yeah, it's just not going to work.
Well, and that is not, for working with our company, that is not a problem. So what they do is they come to us and we build a budget for the 12 months. So we know that certain months maybe more.
So okay, in April, this is what's going to happen.
Then we level it out.
Yep.
So we take it and we level it over that 12-month period. So they're paying us one amount every single month.
Oh, I love it.
There's some certain months that are spikes, and typically at the beginning, we're redoing their website,
right?
Whatever, which is a huge barrier to them kind of getting started, right? But I don't want to build marketing on a really bad brand,
right?
Website and all those things. So it benefits to me that you would fix this. I understand it's going to be expensive, so I will take that money and spread it.
Right.
You trade show coming up in a few months. Let's just build this thing out, and you got one chunk you're paying, and you're not worried about it. And we're not going back and I don't like to be nickel and dimes.
No.
The pickles for 10 cents extra, like just pickles on the order.
I spent an extra hour this month working on this.
No. So, in most cases or all cases, I suspect we end up with much better
right.
stuff.
Now things change. I mean, they but that can be taken into account.
Well, I've only ever had to reset one retainer. I mean, over all the clients we've worked with, I had to have one conversation with one client and go, I was wrong. I thought you were going to be here, and you're really here, right? So we had to reset that retainer. But, because we do the strategy meeting at the beginning and we get to understand the business, like we're not going to just give you a bunch of stuff. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is going to be effective, and we're not going to have to go back and reset that.
Right. And that comes back to that whole family thing. You're going to see each other for Thanksgiving. You don't want to have it have it be uncomfortable.
Well, we really become the marketing department. We are on weekly calls with most of these people, or every other week, and we're doing all kinds of things like that. So we become part of the company.
Right. And it's funny, as you were talking about scheduling and things like that, I was thinking years ago, this really was a long time ago, I worked for a candy broker. And it was one of those things, I had no idea these things existed till you work for them. And so we represented the big companies that then sold to the grocery stores, the convenience stores, all of those various things. And we typically were at least 6 months, if not 9 months ahead. Yeah. So, in January, we're selling Halloween goods, and so it was always really funny because, you
started doing that now, haven't they?
Yeah. You had leftover candy and which my dad just thought was the greatest thing in the world. And so like in February, he's getting all this Halloween candy. He didn't care. It was chocolate to him, but it really did show that there is a huge lead time that you have to do for all of this stuff. And it's hard. I mean, you're thinking, well, wait a minute, it's January. How can I be thinking about October?
Yeah, if you want to do it right, you want to be effective. And I'd like to talk about the other side, which you and I talked a little bit about before the show. So we've talked a lot about making sure you plan and you don't go too late and all that kind of stuff. I find that then people do these big deals, right? Like they have a trade show, they come on the Dev Career Show, and then they don't talk about it. Like you spend all this energy and effort. And
I know. You get all these email addresses and you never contact them. Or
you do anything with it. And we love a big, thick piece of content, so like a podcast or a trade show or whatever, because we just use that thing forever, right? Like it just goes back and back and back. So it's a matter of using it. We use it like the Indian used the buffalo.
Right. Yeah, so you used every single piece.
Turn it into social media posts, turn it into blog posts, reshare the video, reshare the best pieces, like that kind of thing. And then with such an on-demand society, regrettably, most people will not watch or listen to the longer form pieces or read the longer form pieces. But if you give them the snippets, then you've done the job of sort of educating them and making them aware.
Right. Well, and, that's one of the things that I tell people is, say you write a blog post and you've got 10 tips for doing whatever. Okay, that's 10 posts on LinkedIn. Yep. Actually it's 11 because you've got your overall and then you've got your individuals. If you've written it as evergreen content, then, you can just keep pinging it back up, frequently. And it does surprise me when people, now, granted, there are one-time type of things, it could be, something that's very specific to what's going on in the world, all sorts of things.
Yeah, when you're reaching onto a current topic.
Right, yeah, but for the most part, content's evergreen. And so, why reinvent the wheel? And I think that's one of the things that so many people get confused about is they think, I have to keep creating. I thought about this the other day when I was talking to somebody, the old commercial, I have to make the donuts. I got to make the donuts. And the little guy got up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Some weeks when it's really like tough, I get up at time to make the donuts.
And so then you go back to something that already, now you might have to rewrite it a bit or rework it. Maybe it's an ad that you're going to redo, but so much of what we do when it works, keep using it. Now, don't use it so much that people are like, blah, as we were saying before, but make your content evergreen. And then, as you said, use it everywhere. If it's a great blog post, why not put it on social media? Why not make a video of it? Why not, obviously have it on your website, all these various things.
Well, the thing, I have all these articles on Inc. and my team reshare the article, and then I'll run into somebody and they'll say, oh, I love the article that you wrote this week. And I say,
refresh my memory about it.
What about, being a good manager? I'm like, oh, well, I wrote that one 4 years ago, and I'm happy that it worked for you today.
Right.
But, and it's just an example. It didn't matter for them 4 years ago. They didn't care. They weren't worried about being a manager. Maybe they weren't a manager. But the content that I wrote is appropriate today as it was then. So it meant something to them at that point. So it is about, we do a big catalog of a client's site. What do they have? What content can we repurpose? How do we bring it back? I loved you were talking earlier about kind of being careful about your platform. So make sure that you own the content. So, a friend of mine posted on LinkedIn today, don't build a house on rented land. So all the social media platforms are rented land.
Yeah, they're not yours.
Is the blog. The only thing you own is your website. So make sure all your content's there and reference it. Even if you go put it somewhere else, make sure it is living somewhere that you own it. from
Mhm.
now on, and spread it out, because that's the other thing that I see happening is your friend who just invests in Facebook.
Mhm.
You got to invest in multiple platforms because you have no idea which platform is about to go away.
Right.
Going to fall out of favor. There was a
Mhm.
thing called MySpace.
Mhm.
We all spent a lot of time on MySpace, and
Mhm.
there's other social media platforms other than Twitter, LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Facebook. Like there's Quora, there's Reddit, there's all
Mhm.
kinds of places that are considered social
Right.
media that aren't. It's not about just people are like, well, my clients are on Twitter. I'm like,
Mhm.
probably aren't, but they're on some of these other platforms.
Right, right. And clearly there are times where, especially if it's for some industry specific things, I mean, there are platforms out there that you have to be in that industry specific place, or you're, like 20 years ago, you had to advertise in that industry publication.
Yeah.
Same thing now, you need to be there, but again, it's their space.
Yes.
And so always make sure that it's back on your website, that you've got it, all of those various things.
Well, the other thing, the mistake I see people making is they'll share somebody's content through their social media.
Mm-hmm.
And we always recommend that you write something about that on your site
Right.
and share through your site. So
Mm-hmm.
that way you're at least gating through you've got an opinion about
Right.
it. It's just that you're driving traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Like they love that you're amplifying them,
Mm-hmm.
but sort of what's in it for you? Like
Right.
what can you do to kind of make sure that
Mm-hmm.
they know you were the source of it? And
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, the Google loves that.
Mm-hmm.
They love
Oh yeah. Well, and it's simple enough to do. You mentioned that somebody was talking about the Inc. article that you wrote. Okay, so I'm going to share it, but I'm going to write why I liked that article, or maybe I didn't like it. And so I always tell people
why you didn't like it. I love
know.
the controversy. That's so much better.
But it's so important because I see so many people who I know, they're just sharing content, they're not curating content.
Yes.
And and there are times where I've read it and I thought they don't agree with this.
Yes.
Or and it's, I mean, that's okay. It's to share it and say, you know what, I don't agree with this because, but always, before you're going to share something, always read it. Even if it's just, oh my gosh, this is a great article from my friend Eric, say something about it.
Something. Yeah. I love that. Curate. It's all about curation.
Mm-hmm.
Curate that content. Make it easy for me. I mean, that's why you like to go to the library. That's what you love about Netflix.
Right.
Like bringing up the next movie that you're like, oh, I didn't know there was a documentary on that. Right.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it comes back to, oh my gosh, the people are just saying, it's so overwhelming, so I'm not going to do it. What do you tell somebody who tells you, you know what, I'm just going to keep plugging along? Now, I mean, there are those people who just, you can't convince.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, marketing, the choice to not do marketing is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a choice. And the choice that you're making is that either someone else is controlling your message.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're working with a client now who's relatively famous in his category, and he's never done marketing. I'm like, but you have. Like, you're all over the place. People have done more message for you. They talk about you. They talk about what you do. And you've never said one thing to either correct them or to amplify it or whatever. Right. So you are marketing, and you either participate or you let someone else control your message. Or worse, you allow your competitor to bury you.
Right.
And, your competitor can go out and buy URLs that point everybody's content to them when they're trying to find you. And you can do all kinds of things to just bury you in the social media rankings and the SEO rankings. And because when I'm looking for a solution, I'm sort of, what's top of mind? Like, what have I seen? What someone talked about? So that choice is a choice. And I don't know it's Henry Ford and somebody who said that, stopping marketing is like to save money or to save money and save resources. It's like stopping the hands on a clock. Right. To save time. It's not a thing, right? So it's not in your favor. And there are non-believers. They are, and that this is such a Don Draper thing to say, that Don Draper will be like, you're just not a believer. So right. And I can tell a non-believer pretty quickly. Most of the time, my non-believers are B2B businesses that are hidden in little industrial parks that have these terrible logos from 1985.
They bought it.
Or made it themselves on some paint program or whatever. They're like, our customers aren't blah, blah, blah. I'm like, your customer, they are. They're human beings.
Right. And they're smart people.
They're smart people. And the biggest concern, the biggest thing that people need to understand is that a B2B purchase decision is far more dangerous than a B2C decision. So a B2C decision, if I go out and I buy a car that my wife doesn't like, the only person I get in trouble with is my wife.
Right.
And she's like, I hate that car. And I'm like, okay, I'll trade it, right? If I make a B2B decision that is wrong, my boss may fire me, my colleagues won't think of the same as me, I may not get that next promotion, and I put my livelihood at risk. So I'm going to do way more research and do way more background before I present something and look like an idiot in front of people that are not necessarily have to live with me forever.
Right.
Right? So that B2B decision, where that's my biggest one, is people are like, we don't need marketing. We don't need marketing. Like, you need to do marketing more than anyone else because you're not known. You have to educate, and your customer is maybe a little scared to buy from you. They don't trust you. They don't necessarily know what you do. If you've educated them along the way and they call you like, yeah, I've seen your stuff forever. Of course I'm going to call you. You're the person I'm going to talk to.
Yeah. It comes back to that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, you establish a relationship. And I love, and you and I'm certain this happens to you too. I go to places and people are like, hey, Eric. And I'm like, hey, such and such.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, we're Facebook friends. Okay. Yeah. Or worse, they'll say, hey, tell me, how was that vacation? No, you knew I went on vacation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it's funny because as you were talking, it brought up another fear thought that I had, and that's the people who say, but if I'm there, people will say something bad.
So what?
And I tell them, okay, they're going to say it anyway. Don't you want to respond?
Yeah,
because it might not be
haters gonna hate.
Right. Yeah. And so, I want to be able to say, okay, well, here's what we did to fix it. I've got some clients who had some issues with some bad reviews, and their first inclination was hide our heads in the sand. Let's not respond. Let's not do anything. And and I did crisis management for a long time too. And of course, anytime you get the attorneys involved, that makes things very different. But I always told people, I said, saying, I'm sorry, we'll fix it, all is not necessarily taking the blame for it.
Right.
And many times people just want to be heard. I always love the people who are posting at 2:00 in the morning, after they've had a couple of adult beverages. Well, responding to them, they're never going to pay any attention. Right. They don't care. They're not going to go back and read that review. But what you're doing is you're writing that comment for whoever else reads it.
Exactly.
And that's what people don't get.
Negative and positive. So they're going to expect there's some negative. They want to see how you responded to it. Right. And they're going to want some positive. And the only way, I'm working with a client similar who has some bad reviews, but they've taken over a business. So previous owners.
Right.
And so they're like, what do we do? I'm like, you're going to have to solicit reviews from other customers to bring that rating up. You're just going to have to get them to go in there because I can't fix that rating.
No. The whole systems are set that it's supposed to be unbiased. So you can't make those bad things go away.
Can't make them go away, but we can add. So when you have a great experience with the client, they share that, get them to do a review, and you'll start slowly bringing that ranking up. And in fact, people, when they review reviews, they expect a mix. They expect something like,
if it's 100% good, you're like,
you bought that.
Right. Oh yeah. Or they convinced all their employees to go do it. Right. And that's one of the things I tell my clients is, now if your employees are going to say something, that's fine, but there needs to be full disclosure. They need to say, hey, I love working here, or, whatever, so that when because it comes back to that unbiased.
Yep. But it's all, it's a very interesting, I love the complexity of it, but it's also simple. It's about, connecting with your clients, understanding the questions they ask you. So, if you want to know what kind of marketing to do, write down the questions you get asked by your customers all the time, because that's the thing that you need to put out. Like, it really should be really simple to come up with what those are. And you can talk about it in a million different ways. So it's about just, educating both B2C and B2B and making sure you're sort of staying in front of them in a way that is meaningful.
Yeah. It's funny when people are, well, what should I blog about? I tell them, you've got an entire section on your website called frequently asked questions.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah. When we come up for a B2B client, we get them to create a quarterly content topic. And then every week we do awareness, which is who are you and why do you exist? Education, what is it that you do and why do I care? Use, how do I use your thing?
Right.
And then top of mind, remind me that you exist. So if you think of every month and then you have those 4, that gives you something to talk about each week.
Right.
So
yeah,
like
so it's easier to plan.
Yeah. If I do my example is I'm an IT services company and bring your own device is a big deal. Well, the awareness is going to be what is bring your own device? Why do I care about it? You know, the education is what are the kind of policies I can put in place? So you basically take that and it becomes your railing. And because the posts don't need to be that long,
right?
You've already written half of it just by coming up with the outline. And if you don't love to write, there are writers out there that'll interview you and create the blog post for you. So that is not an excuse. That is not, you just need to kind of get it out there.
Right. Right. You know, and as you mentioned, it's what are people asking? You know, when you go to a networking thing, you know, what do people say? You know, because more than likely they're going to say, now tell me what you do. Okay. How do you respond to that? Now, you know, granted in networking, we're told we deflect that back. We ask them all of those various things. But at some point, you probably should talk about what you do. You know, and
through networking, and sometimes I always just tell them it'll just confuse you. So, because we have like 5 things going on, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and or you know, we've got it to a sentence. We do this, but tell me what you do, you know, and because you know, like I said, we've been taught as good networkers, you know, it's all about them. We want them to be answering the questions, all those various things. But as they're answering those questions, hopefully it is tying into something that you do. So then you can say, oh, well, you've got a new product coming out. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Right. Yeah. So it's all around you. And the problem, and the good news about working with an outsourced firm to do this kind of work is that one of the guys I work with says that you can't read the label from inside the bottle.
Right.
And so we're on the outside. We read the label. Like, this is what's interesting to me. You know, this is what I see. This is how you should talk about it.
Right.
And can make it much more compelling to that audience you're trying to attract.
Right. Well, and it's kind of like bragging about your kid.
Yeah.
You know, you think people want to hear one thing and they're like, no, tell me about this instead. You know, and you're like, really? That's what you,
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And your company, if you're close enough to it, is your kid. You just spend so much time with it and you don't always see the flaws or understand. So kind of getting that outsider perspective and coming up with what's that going to look like and how that's going to work. Yeah.
Right. You know, and they do want to hear some of the fun stuff. You know, they want to see, you know, the employee birthday celebration or, you know, those things that we all think, why would somebody want to see that? Well, you know, part of that, you go back to your social media. I mean, you know, if you posted, say that you went and built a Habitat for Humanity house. Now, there were reasons you were doing that. You know, it was good team building, yada, 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 all that stuff. But if that's what gets a lot of comments, then clearly the people are interested in that. So they want to know that, you know, about your philanthropic philosophy, all these various things. And it's back to what we were saying at the very start. It's about those relationships. You know, I want to know more about you.
Right. It's not B2B. It's not B2C. It's P to P.
Right.
Person to person. Human being. Like, how do you do that? Because I'm not really a different person when I show up at work.
Right. You shouldn't be.
The way that I buy things in the consumer world is very similar to the way I'm going to buy them in the business world. Things I care about, worried about are going to be the same. Like, if I'm very detail oriented, then I'm going to want all the details. And also making sure you're not treating your customers all the same. Like, your customers are going to come from different, you know, areas. Some are going to need to know all the way down to the specification. Some are going to be more like me. It's like, tell me what it does. Okay, I'll try it out. It didn't work. You know, like, that kind of thing. So yeah, servicing all of those kind of clients as they that funnel, knowing kind of what your primary client looks like.
Right. And then it comes back to what we've been saying, and that gets overwhelming. You know, and so that's why, especially if you are a small firm, 1 person, 10 people, you know, whatever, if you don't have that expert in-house, you absolutely need to be working with someone. Because, you know, we don't know it all, you know, and it's funny, I talk about this a lot on the program that, you know, we start our business and we think, I have to know it all, or people are going to think less of me. Well, I'm sorry. You mentioned, you shouldn't be doing your own taxes. We shouldn't be doing our own surgery. I don't change my own oil in my car. I'm doing good to be able to put gas in.
I've got grass.
Yeah.
So, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I need help with my marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about, I love that you bring that point up, because I do a lot with kind of, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done this lots of times. And it is this crazy thing of like, if I become an entrepreneur, all of a sudden I have to be smart at all HR and legal and all these things because I started a business. And it's like, no, you didn't get a brain transplant. Like,
No.
you decided to start a business, and the reason you're going to be successful is you can figure out how to delegate as quickly as possible to the right people who can do all the right things. And then, get best first use of your time. What is the best first use of your time? And everything else goes away. It goes to someone else. Because even if you're going to have to pay a little bit of money, that person's going to do it more efficiently than you're going to do it. They're going to do it right. You're not going to waste the money. One of my strategists, he uses this term about sort of, using people in that way is, a field can either be not enough water or it can receive too much water.
Yep.
And if you're trying to do it yourself, you don't know if you're overwatering it or if you're underwatering it. So how do you
because you're in it.
Yeah. How to grow the grass.
Right. And it is difficult, especially when you're starting out or money is tight, to think, oh my gosh, I need to, hire somebody to do that. And, so, okay, you can do a lot of this yourself, and people do, but, when you can afford to go out, even if it's just something little or something that's going to take your time. It's funny. I was thinking, I'm managing a website for somebody. Now, it's not exactly what I like to do. It's a volunteer thing. I'm volunteering to do this website for somebody, and a lot of other people have had their little fingers in it.
Yeah.
Well, I can either spend a lot of my time, and my time that I'm not being paid for, because as I said, I'm volunteering, or I can pay somebody who knows what they're doing. I can pay him for an hour of his time. He can fix it. He can make it all better, which is what I'm going to do. I do the tinker method. If I tinker with it for 15 minutes and I can't fix it, no, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a better use of everybody's time and resources if I have him spend an hour on it. I could spend 6 and it still might not work. He could do it in 45 minutes.
Yeah, that is one thing I do like about what we've built with Liger is we service clients very small all the way to very large. And we have people that we're just doing, we may just be doing their podcast and running social media or just their social media and some of their content, to clients that we're doing multiple trade shows for them. We're rebranding. We're doing internal communication plans. We run the spectrum of clients and really work as kind of like a interchanging piece on the back. So Swiss Army knife. And we use Slack and Basecamp and all these tools. And so our clients can put something up and then we've got a resource that it goes to. So it allows us also to see what works across a lot of different industries and a lot of different places. So we'll sometimes get the question of like, have you worked in our industry? Probably we have, but we don't focus on one.
Right. Marketing is marketing, and
solving a problem. What's the problem we're trying to solve? Right. And that problem could be the same for, we've got a hair extensions company to companies that sell insurance. Like, I mean, they're all over the spectrum.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the way you look at it.
Yeah. And it comes back to solving somebody's pain. I'm never wild about that. Solving someone's problem is probably the easier way to put it. And if you know how to do that for a hair extension company, you probably can do it for an insurance company, because it's the base concept is the same.
Yeah. What is it that what are you struggling with, and how do we put the right piece in place and make it easy for you? Why do the agency models that I see that don't work is where they rely too heavily on the client to know things they don't know.
Right.
So they're like, oh, send us your boilerplate. And the customer, what's a boilerplate, right?
Yeah.
We have this thing, we have an ask for forgiveness, not permission. So when we sit down with a client and we agree to what the calendar is going to look like, we send them things for review. So like if you're going to do social with us, you'll get a calendar the week prior. If we don't hear from you, we are posting that calendar.
Right. Oh yeah.
I'm not waiting. And if we put up something wrong, we'll just pull it down, right? Like, I mean, and we'll have learned, and you'll start paying attention.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah,
But
when I worked in corporate America, I had that where, I wrote press releases for a very large company, and there were 29 people that I had to send it to. Good portion of those were the attorneys.
Yeah.
And I learned really fast to put a deadline in there in red and to say, if I have not heard from you by X, I assume you have approved.
And I'm moving forward.
Yep. And of course that worked because there were only like 2 or 3 people that I really needed to hear from. And I always knew, okay, those are the people I need to hear from. If I haven't heard from them, ping them. But everybody else, they just wanted to have their little hands in the pie. But yeah, you like you said, you ask for forgiveness. For the most part, everything's fixable, unless you gave away a Rolex to every single person who called, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, you're probably going to be okay. And beware of the marketing firm that's asking you to do too much of the heavy lifting. I mean, it would be like going to a restaurant. The person, you're like, oh, I'd like to have a steak and potatoes.
Yeah, okay, you got to go cook it yourself.
Okay, you cook it yourself, or you bring the steak with you, or whatever.
Right.
No. I've come to the restaurant. You're supposed to you got to let them be experts at that. If they're not going to do that, then you probably need to find somebody else.
Right.
Or just
people ask me, do I review the social media posts that my producer does for this program? And I say, no. I mean, I see them because, they're going past my feed, but I don't review them because what's that, if I had to write it, then I should just write it. I mean,
have the person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And more importantly, I trust that she's going to do what I want. Now, every once in a while, I might change something. But maybe it's more, something very, very minor.
Don't use that word. Or
or oops, in the program we talked about this and not that, something like that. But yeah, I mean, we either trust the people we work with or we don't. And if we don't trust them, then we shouldn't be working with them.
And marketing, you should trust your marketer just like you trust your outside accountant, legal, or whatever. Just let them do their thing. Like that is the thing.
Yeah, don't micromanage.
Like everybody thinks they're a marketer, right? Like they're like, okay. So.
I know. Yeah, I had a client the other day that said, now you really have to be using Instagram. And I said, okay, why? Well, I like it. Okay. I mean, and I tell people, that is kind of one of the things you need to like what you're doing.
Right,
and I said, but do you think the people we're trying to reach are on Instagram? And her response was, what does that matter? And I was like, okay. Yeah, no.
That's doing it just for yourself. So yeah.
So, but cool. Well, oh my gosh, Eric, we are almost at the top of the hour. This has been so much. I love talking marketing. And because it's one of those things that is ever changing and always the same. I mean, it's the basic strategies are always the same. But how we do it is what changes to some degree. I mean, it's, I think at some point we might all go Facebook, LinkedIn, and we've seen that in a lot of cases, and so it's getting back to how are you building those relationships, all of those various things. And so that's what I love talking about is, how are we doing that? How are we reaching the people we need to reach and connecting with them?
Yeah. Yep. Very much. That's all it is. And knowing where they are and hanging out where they hang out and figuring out how to kind of give them a message that's going to resonate and solve the problem for them. So,
If they're on Instagram, I got to be on Instagram.
That's right. And I love Instagram right now because that's how I do almost all of my holiday shopping.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any other time. I'm like, oh, cool. That looks good.
I know. That's the cool thing about these. Yeah, you can get a lot done.
Yeah, but you're also endlessly accessible. So,
yeah, the attached to our hip type of things.
Yeah.
Well, for people who are interested in contacting you to possibly work with you, how do they find you and connect with you?
So the easiest is to go to our website, ligerpartners.com. So Liger partners.com. And find me everywhere. So I'm E. Holtzclaw on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn as Eric Holtzclaw. You can find Liger Partners that way. We do a lot with social and otherwise. So those are the best ways. We've got a contact form on there, and there's a phone number you can call, and glad to have you reach out to me on email or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can start to talk about how we can make your marketing seeing as we go into 2020.
Perfect. I love it. What we didn't mention is you've got a lot of great resources on your website. You've got your blog, you've got podcasts, all sorts of great information there. So it's good for people, to go and check all that information out just to see, okay, what's your philosophy? Because you are going to be family. You are going to be somebody who is part of that team. So, we want to make sure it's a good fit.
Yep, absolutely. We become their marketing department. We become just like their CMO for the company, no matter the size. So it can be really small all the way to large. And we're there to really advise that client strongly as to the tactics and the things, the strategies we think.
Well, and of course, because of technology, they can be anywhere.
Yes, they can. Absolutely. We use Slack. I love Slack. So all of our clients get on Slack. That's how they ask us questions. We just kind of have it's just like we're sitting in the room having a conversation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm still a Zoom girl. That's what we're doing with all this.
For our calls and things, but Slack is our kind of informal communication.
Well, and technology makes it to where, as you said, we can be in multiple places. You mentioned that, that your team members aren't all in one place.
Right.
That's what's so cool, I think, about, what we're doing now. It's fun to get in a room with people, but we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I love that we've taken customers' needs and we've married it to people who really love specializing all of those things. So people who are just great at writing, great at design, great at content, great at, all those aspects, right? Great at SEO. And they don't, and we are that conduit. Like we're taking them and putting them in the right place. And sometimes like this design project is better for this designer and sometimes it's better for this one. And you don't need to make that decision. Just tell me what you need and I'll go figure out who the right person is.
Yeah. This person is creative in this direction. And
the marriage of like a corporate feel to a gig economy. So we have a bunch of like giggers and we have people who are, 100% Liger, and it really just depends on what we need and what we're doing.
I love it. I love it. Well, Eric, we have to do this more often than every 6 years. Hey, I can almost do that math, especially since we are both in the same town. Now, granted, Atlanta is just a little big, but yeah, we have to do this more often. And more importantly, it's great chatting with you because you've got such great information.
Well, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having a wonderful time catching up with Eric Holtzclaw. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.